So, today we're going to dive into a pretty profound story of cultural healing. It's all about how Japanese anime and manga, mediums we usually link with epic fantasies and adventures, took on this massive, almost impossible task of processing one of history's deepest traumas, the atomic bombs. Let's explore how art can actually begin to mend what history has broken.
To really get our heads around this, we first need to talk about kintsugi. It's this incredible Japanese art of fixing broken pottery. But here's the thing. Instead of hiding the cracks, they highlight them with gold. The whole idea is that the object is more beautiful, more valuable, because it was broken and put back together. It's not about pretending the damage never happened, it's about honoring the wound. And that powerful idea is going to be our guide through this whole story.
And that really brings us to the core question, right? When a nation goes through a trauma that is so huge, so reality-shattering, like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, how do you even start to heal? How do you repair a wound that seems to defy any normal kind of language or story? Well, as we're about to see, the answer for Japan was found in its art.
The atomic bombs in 1945 did more than just cause physical devastation. They created this deep cultural shock. Some have called it a problem of form. Basically, the experience was so far outside of human comprehension that traditional stories just couldn't hold it. The usual ways of telling stories, they just broke. It was an event that fractured the national soul, leaving this silence where a narrative should have been.
So why anime and manga? What made them the right tools for this impossible job? Well, think about it. They could offer both a critical distance, maybe through sci-fi or fantasy, and at the same time, this incredibly intimate access to pure emotion. A single animated frame can hold these complex, clashing feelings, like grief and hope, all at once. It could make the unimaginable something you could finally start to look at, to process.
So how did this repair actually happen? Well, we can think of all these different creative responses as distinct golden seams in this cultural kintsugi. Each one traces that fracture in its own unique way, mending the break by making it visible, making it understandable, and making it part of a new, stronger whole. Let's trace 4 of these incredible golden seams.
Okay, our first seam is direct, unflinching testimony. This quote is from Kenji Nakazawa, the creator of the groundbreaking manga Barefoot Gen. As a 6-year-old survivor of Hiroshima, he said that for years he just hid what he went through. But then he made a choice. He chose to draw it, to create this visceral, raw account so that other people, especially kids, could face the reality without it being softened. His art basically became an archive for the unendurable.
Now for the second seam, the ethical fable, which you see a lot in science fiction. And the franchise Macross is just a brilliant example of this. In its universe, you've got humanity threatened by this overwhelming destructive force called reaction weapons. I mean, it's a pretty clear stand-in for nuclear weapons, but the answer isn't a bigger weapon. It's something called protoculture, a pop song, a kiss, broadcast across the fleet. Culture itself becomes the only thing that can stop total annihilation. The point is, the destructive power is there, it's real, but a creative, life-affirming alternative is always possible.
All right, our third seam dives into the idea of intimate survival, and the imagery here is just fascinating. In Neon Genesis Evangelion, those giant EVA units aren't just war machines. The cockpits are basically engineered wombs. The pilot is literally connected by an umbilical cable. They breathe this special fluid that's like amniotic fluid, and they have to sync with their own mother's soul, which is housed inside the machine. It totally reframes survival. It's not about victory or conquest. It's a ritual of being contained, of being reborn, of just enduring the trauma long enough to get to the next day.
And the fourth seam is civic pacifism. This one isn't just about what's on the screen, it's about the creators themselves. The legend, Hayao Miyazaki, has been very clear about tying his filmmaking to Japan's post-war constitution, especially Article 9, which renounces war. For him, this isn't some political thing separate from his art, it's the very soil his art grows in. And you can feel that principle woven into the fabric of his films, which are always exploring how you can refuse power without giving up your responsibilities.
Now, a kintsugi repair isn't just about the first act of gluing the pieces together. It has to last. It has to be durable. And that's where we go from these amazing individual works of art to the cultural infrastructure that makes this memory a permanent, accessible part of society.
Take the Hiroshima International Animation Festival, for example, and its successor. For decades, this whole event ran under the official banner of love and peace. They held screenings right there in the Peace Memorial Park. They set up workshops and public academies. It was a direct, intentional act of binding the art of animation to civic life, to remembrance, and to education, making sure that memory is actively cared for. And the scale of this preservation effort is just staggering. Look at this number, 410,000. And that's just a snapshot from one place, the Yoshihiro Yonezawa Memorial Library. Here, popular media like manga and even fan-made zines are treated with the respect of priceless historical artifacts. This is kintsugi as a living process, teaching a new generation how to handle these fragile papers that carry such a heavy, important history.
And what's really fascinating is that sometimes, even challenges to this memory end up making the repair even stronger. Back in 2013, a school board tried to restrict access to Barefoot Gen, but it didn't work. In fact, it backfired. It sparked protests, a huge national debate, and sales of the manga actually shot through the roof. The attempt to hide the scar paradoxically made that golden seam shine even brighter for a whole new generation.
So, this repaired vessel, this culture, it's not just sitting on a shelf in a museum. It's not some relic of the past. No, it's actively being used, passed from hand to hand, right now, in the present day, constantly being looked at and reaffirmed.
So where do we see it? Well, you see it at those festivals in Hiroshima, absolutely. You see it in university reading rooms. You see it in this thing called contents tourism, where fans of anime, like in this corner of the world, will actually walk the real streets of Kure and Hiroshima to feel connected to the story. It lives in classroom debates, and most importantly, it lives in the hands of new creators and new readers who are inheriting this complex, beautiful, repaired legacy.
And all of this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We've seen how one of the world's most popular art forms became a tool for profound national healing, a way to trace, to honor, and to mend an unspeakable wound. So the question that's left for all of us is this. If this is what storytelling is capable of, what stories are we creating, sharing, and holding on to repair the fractures in our own world?